What's going on, guys? Derek here with Fantasy Football Advice, coming at you with another fantasy football video. Today, you know what time it is. We're doing another installment of the mock draft competition, and I will admit, I think I had more fun on this mock draft than I had in previous ones. I never had done the live stream on Twitch while actually drafting myself, and I will say that is quite challenging because you already know that the subscribers, you guys, the ones who are part of our members in our community, you guys are pretty much high on a lot of the same players we are, so it's really tough to get value on our targets. If we typically reach on a player, we'll have to reach that much higher, and the players that fall, they definitely tank. The players I like, I got. I'm very happy with this team, at least in the beginning part. The distractions definitely set in at the tail end of the draft, and I'll let you know where I think my mistakes were in basically the middle of August, okay? I know a lot of you are new here, but it's time to dial it in. You have to really do these mock drafts and have an understanding of what value you're going to get on a player, what risks you're going to have to take by drafting that player, if the upside's high enough to constitute the risk, and what your overall strategy is going to be in the players that you want to target and avoid. So I know it's a weird year, right? We started off with having just solid running backs. It looked like almost every team was going to have a bona fide RB1 with top 5 upside. Melvin Gordon, Ezekiel Elliott, to go along with David Johnson, Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley. Who can really poke holes in their game? I mean, obviously we're splitting hairs with them and they're ranked the way they are for a reason, but just take a look at James Conner, Le'Veon Bell, two running backs that were basically avoids. They were going in the early second round at best. Typically, players wanted to draft like Joe Mixon over him, Nick Chubb, Damian Williams, who's now slipping. These players who at first were seen as the safer and the value plays at the position are now falling, and James Conner, Le'Veon Bell, they're rising. Now, that does throw a wrench in it because all offseason, that wasn't what we've seen. And this is the stuff that you have to be focused on, and that's the reason why I need to be doing these mock drafts. So I'll go through what I think of this mock draft round by round. And, I want to know what you guys think in the comment section down below as well. If you guys think that there's a player that is valued way too high, maybe the hype is too much on that player, and you definitely let us know. And if you think that, we're too low on a player, by all means, I want to hear about it. That's enough about that. Let's get into this actual draft. I already touched on, the running back changes. Ezekiel Elliott still went too high for my liking. I just wouldn't touch him at all. I would recommend you do too as well. I know it thins out the early rounds. You're seeing players like T.Y. Hilton, who typically would fall to the early third. It's really difficult to want to draft him now in the late second. And I'll tell you, when I drafted him at, 2-9, I felt like it was a reach, but I did have him higher than Keenan Allen and Amari Cooper. And it was really between him and Kerryon Johnson. As you know, love Kerryon Johnson. I expect good things from him. But, I went with Andrew Luck. I do think that Kerryon Johnson does come with a little bit more risk than T.Y. Hilton, although T.Y. Hilton is smaller. He really is pretty much healthy throughout his whole career. And what you see with his production with Andrew Luck has been consistent, and I valued that. So, Travis Kelce, I would have definitely taken over him. I'm fine with drafting Travis Kelce. If you're in a 10-team league, I know somebody in our Facebook community, which is awesome, they had an 8-team league. And I'm like, man, if you are in an 8-team league, having Travis Kelce will put you at such an advantage. How many running backs are you going to get? Your RB4. You're only going through the top 30 running backs. In the top 30 running backs, they can fluctuate in value really quickly. One injury boosts you up 10 spots. A wide receiver going out, you're down 6 spots. So you really have to separate yourself where you can, and Travis Kelce is a separator. And George Kittle, they're not that far apart, and we actually see in this third round here, we see George Kittle actually went. So I think that is actually what you probably will see in drafts, but I also could see a situation where he falls a little deeper, because I am saying how the running back and the wide receiver position seem like they're thinning out because players like Ezekiel Elliott may not even be drafted that early. And so you may feel obligated to take players earlier, and that is why George Kittle may seem like you're overpaying for him at that point, especially considering that people are not used to taking him a handful of picks after Travis Kelce. It was always Travis Kelce, tier 1, and then George Kittle and Zach Ertz a round and a half later. Well, look at Zach Ertz over here. He is a solid round, a full round, 402 versus George Kittle's 302. That is, that's a big drop off. And while we would support that, we actually have Travis Kelce and Kittle in the same tier as opposed to Zach Ertz in his own tier, which is a lower tier. I'm not typically the guy to take the tight ends early, but these are just the trends that you have to look at, and these are the things that you have to be aware of, and you're only going to know this if you continue to these mock drafts. Just going back to mine, I'm going to comment more on mine, and I'll go over the overall draft and what I'm seeing in the changes in ADPs. But I got Marlon Mack in the 3rd round, and I couldn't be more thrilled. I would have loved to have Williams there as well. Williams actually scares me now. I'm not off him, don't get me wrong. But there are capable backs in that backfield. I'm not going to lie. Any running back's going to look good, okay? Damian Williams is going to look great, but he's not going to look great on the sideline. He's not going to do your team any justice on the sideline. If you look anything up about Marlon Mack in this offseason, they want to give him the full workload. All signs from the coaching staff are super positive. They say he can man the load. They really want to see what he can do. He's going to lead this backfield. It's just, I'll pull it up right now, but just because why not, right? I'm going to go back and check if Aaron Jones was taken before or after him. These are going to be some players. Damian Williams, Aaron Jones, and Marlon Mack are probably going to be a real headache for everyone that's drafting to decide between, because everyone's going to get, like right now, Marlon Mack's getting his hype, right? Well, next preseason game, who knows? Can play all 3 downs. Vote of confidence. Carry the load. This is every update. Hype train. And then, to get him in the 3rd round, that's a great value for me. I wouldn't expect to get that. George Kittle's falling. You can see a clear tier break between Fournette and Mark. So I wouldn't expect in a really competitive league George Kittle to be taken so early. Unless this was, some sort of 8-team, 10-team league where you would probably value those more scarce positions more. But don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting to do that in a 12-team league, and I am not a fan of drafting those players early. Travis Kelce, I did say I was okay with. The next closest one I'd go to is O.J. Howard, which Montgomery is starting to become a player that you guys need to keep an eye on. If we keep this one quiet, maybe the people in some of our leagues aren't going to overdraft him, because we're seeing that with a lot of the players we like. They become values, and we think they're values, and then all of a sudden, a week later, we're drafting them around earlier, and then we have to actually ask ourselves, do we get a value? And sometimes it's hard to see. It's because we're just so used to picking them and having them on our team, we forget that what made them a value is their ADP. So David Montgomery, we're going to keep this one quiet. 3-8, that's fine. Totally fine with that. Antonio Brown, you can't draft him. This is another player. I think he's going to go earlier. I think he's going to go earlier in your drafts. I don't expect him to fall anywhere near this. And honestly, 3-11, it's not a good deal. It's not a good deal. Dude, this guy's a loose cannon. Stephon Diggs versus him, give me the safety all day. And I know maybe it's a little reactionary to what we saw last year with Le'Veon Bell, but at this point, you really gonna we preach safety in the early rounds. Are you really gonna risk it on Antonio Brown? It's definitely gonna get the votes, but you're risking a lot to get there. And the potential upside at 3-11, there is upside there, but it doesn't constitute the risk in my opinion. There is a place where I would draft him, obviously, because we don't hate players, we hate their ADPs. If he falls far enough, he's worth the risk. Kind of like AJ Green. There is a point where AJ Green is draftable. I don't know what that is because he never falls to that point. So it's not even worth investigating for me, but there is a point. Same with Antonio Brown, but I would never expect that he would fall that far in a draft that I'm in. Robert Woods, Chris Carson. Chris Carson's been rising. Kenny Golladay, he's going to just be an anchor right here in the 4th round. I don't expect him to move up or down. I think he's kind of locked right in the middle. Him and Chris Godwin, I think. I would be pretty surprised if those 2 wide receivers come draft day weren't within 2 picks of each other. One good game or one injury is going to separate that, but I really think that those guys are valued similarly. I think Kenny Golladay for more of the floor because he's the number 1 wide receiver in his team. Chris Godwin for more of the ceiling. Jameis Winston looked really good, guys, and you have to take notice. You guys have to be watching preseason. But so the 4th round, pretty standard. I was thrilled to get Godwin. I didn't even think it was close. Honestly, to me, I had no interest in taking Lockett as my wide receiver too. I know he's probably going to lead this team in targets, likely, but it's still a low passing volume offense. You've heard me say that all offseason. Chris Godwin, Jameis Winston looked great. Bruce Arians, he's going to do wonders for this team, and I can already sense it. They were already great last season when it came to quarterback to wide receiver production. So if you're telling me it could potentially go up, which, I'm not holding my breath about that, but even if it's similar, I think typically Mark Ingram would have fallen to me, and I probably would have taken Lockett. I'm not so interested in Ingram, or probably DJ Moore, because I wouldn't have expected DJ Moore to fall to me, or OJ Howard actually. As I got Chris Godwin, I didn't feel the need to draft DJ Moore. I love DJ Moore, and I think you guys have seen me draft him in every mock draft, and I'll probably avoid him next time for that reason. But I really wanted OJ Howard. He's just a pick where at the end of my draft, I look back on my roster and I'm like, wow, I like, the core players. I like the upside players. But I really feel like I separated myself at tight end, because OJ Howard just feels like he has the safety, even though he's not going to get, a huge amount of volume. But he also has, the ceiling to be one of those guys like, Kittle and Ertz. When it comes to efficiency, what he did in his efficiency numbers last season, we never project them to always remain high, but he was very promising. He's a superior talent. Patrick Mahomes went a little early. I was very surprised that he did go this early in our drafts. You can see clearly that 3 rounds separated him from the next quarterback, so that hurt this team a lot. Patrick Mahomes, don't get me wrong, great quarterback, probably likely to finish as number 1, but you don't want to pay the number 1 price tag. It was a 5th round pick versus getting similar players in the 5th round or the 8th round. So Evan Ingram, he is rising. You're going to continue to see that. I don't think Mike Williams is a great pick here. Let me touch on that. Tevin Coleman, I am interested in him at this stage. I don't feel as though he's, a pick that really sets my team apart, but I do feel like he's going to be a consistent producer. I do think the combination of Melvin Gordon and Tevin Coleman would jive together. Maybe as much as Lamar Miller, I think they would be similar because they're going to get a guaranteed workload while they're on the field. Don't doubt Duke Johnson in the rushing game. Just because he was never used there doesn't mean he can't do it. Robbie Anderson, I would put Alshon Jeffrey, Christian Kirk, Jarvis Landry. I would put all these guys. I do value the wide receiver production in this range much better. I don't think that the running backs in this range have as much upside to risk ratio. I think the Dante Pettis's, the Christian Kirks, the Jarvis Landrys, the Robbie Andersons, they're pretty safe as opposed to the running backs. They could be top 12, top 15 guys, but they also could fall to the 30s. I could see that with Penny. Miles Sanders, I'm a little higher on them. Then you got Latavius Murray in the 7th round and Darrell Henderson in the 7th round. I think these are the guys that you can value more for safety. And then you have the upside guys in the 7th round. You got the Marvin Jones, the Marquez Valdez-Scantling. These are the guys that don't really have a guaranteed. Let's move up. Curtis Samuel. We have to stop putting him in videos because pretty soon he's going to be a 3rd round pick. And then it's probably not going to be as good of a pick anymore. But we love him. So I don't expect him to go this early in drafts. But definitely, this is probably where I would honestly feel comfortable taking him in the range of. I don't think you have to by any means, but I don't think that you're risking too much with it. This is what I was talking about. This is a run. This is what happens, and you're going to see it in your drafts. You got the quarterback run. One person drafts a quarterback. The next person, he can't really decide between Damius Harris or Darius Geis. It's safer than Andrew Luck. You're settling. You're settling when you do that. You don't need to continue to pile up the running backs and receivers. And I think that, at this stage of the draft, likely they won't fall. I think in your home leagues, these quarterbacks are going to be taken much earlier. Kiki Kuti. I know Kiki Kuti, he's got the injuries going on, but still, I wanted to take my shot on the talent because, look at it. What do I got? Hilton, Godwin, DJ Moore, Dante Pettis. So I even really need to start him. The upside of these other guys, it's still high. I love Anthony Miller. Easily could have taken Miller. I could understand the argument for Metcalf or Shepard. I don't think Shepard would have the same upside, but I could see the argument. So not my best pick. I think my best pick, and Damian Harris didn't feel good either, just because I used to be able to get him in the 13th round. But guys, this is not June. The values we had then when we were stealing them, and believe me, you can still get those values in ESPN if you go in a draft. If you go in a draft in ESPN, you're going to love your roster every time because the ADPs are incorrect. So that's another point, which I'll touch on a little bit later. But David Njoku, that probably was the best feeling pick out of any pick in this draft. I don't think I disliked any pick of my draft. At this point, I think the worst pick that I had made was Kiki Kuti because I don't typically like to target players that are on the decline, aka the injury. It's another thing to consider. But David Njoku just feels so good because he's a guy that I like to target. You guys know that I like to target Cam Newton around this area, 10th, 11th round. But you can't take a quarterback over a position player. You just can't because quarterbacks are a dime a dozen. And Cam Newton, while I think he has top 5 upside, and you can't really argue that, even this season. So I like Cam Newton, but David Njoku's, who else would I have gotten later and felt comfortable with? Mark Andrews, 2 rounds later. I like Mark Andrews, don't get me wrong. But that's still not a secure player that you just put in a low passing volume offense and feel comfortable with. This offense of the Browns is to be taken seriously. If you've been watching anything, I really do want you guys to go on Twitter and just see the footage from camp. It's phenomenal. I made a joke. I was saying Freddie Kitchens is going to end the season with a receiving touchdown, and maybe because every throw looks so crisp, so accurate. Either that or the defense sucks, but I don't want to think like that. Now, this range right here, this is where the fantasy football advice drafts are really killing us, because all of the players that we overdrafted in the early rounds left. Like Justice Hill's not going in the 10th round. Alexander Madison's not really going in the 10th round. Duke Johnson, Ito Smith. These aren't players that Matt Breida's not going in the 9th. So it's like all these players are going higher, because we as a community, think a lot of the same ways. Now, this is where we're in the area where you're just taking shots on guys. You want the upside. You don't care about the floor. I really got distracted here. So I actually took Justin Jackson. I like that pick there, but Tony Pollard's a good pick. I could have taken Mecole Hardman. I like that one as well. But the Chicago Bears defense, man, and as soon as I took it, a real thought on the Chicago Bears defense, trying to break it down for this upcoming season. I did it for all the defenses, looked at the early season schedule, and I just couldn't even constitute the Chicago Bears being worth anything more than the other defenses, because we aren't playing in the situation that they lost their defensive coordinator. Defensive coordinator is kind of important to the team. The defensive unit of the Chicago Bears needs leadership. Khalil Mack, he's not, and I hate, if any Chicago Bears fans, I hope I don't offend you, but he's not been known to be like a locker room leader, okay? He's a leader on the field. He's a guy that guys get behind and can really get excited about when he makes plays. He gets the fans excited, but that's a little bit different than a true leader. The game plan, he can take them out of rough situations. And I really think that the Chicago Bears thrived on, the energy, the takeaways. And I feel like just a couple things could go wrong. And without that leadership, they're even though they have the talent, we might not see it on the field. And then I was expecting defenses to go a little bit early, because I was looking at these picks. Michael Gallup, Traquan Smith, definitely a good choice there. Probably should have gone him. I probably should have gone Lamar Jackson. But I thought there was still plenty of options left. I did get Lamar Jackson in the next round. And then I was busy talking on the stream. We were giving stuff away. And I did take Devontae Booker. I'm kind of happy that it was Devontae Booker, because it's such a bad pick that you guys can't possibly think that was a pick that I would make. So, if I took someone like, Ty Montgomery or something of the Jets, or like Gus Edwards maybe, it might be more realistic to think that was, a player I was interested in. So I'm kind of glad it was Devontae Booker, because it's just such a bad pick that, it can't possibly constitute it. So please don't judge me on that. Dallas Cowboys defense, by the way, guys, definitely interesting to me. I think you should give them a second look when you're drafting. They didn't fall very far in this draft. I was surprised. I'm not sure exactly where they're projected by most ADPs, but they're definitely one that has a really good start to the season. Their first 3 matchups are good. I know they start with New York and Washington, and I believe the third one's something strong as well. So I definitely think that they're a defense you can start with. The Baltimore Ravens, they also have a good start, but then it gets a little shaky. I really think that you can't avoid dropping, in most cases, your defense within the first 3 weeks. I didn't see one defense that you could really ride and kind of fight the waves. One of them ran into like an Arizona, and I know Arizona doesn't sound scary, but it might be. One of them ran into an Arizona or like a Kansas City. One of these really strong offenses in New Orleans. So you're either gonna have to ride it out or you're gonna have to stream, and I'm fine with streaming as I take Chicago Bears in the 12th round. But Trey Quinn, this was another one that I was told that I stole. I definitely think he's going way too late on Sleeper. I'm not sure where his ADP is going to land. This might be the one that we might want to keep secret, because if he's going after Marquise Goodwin, Marquise Brown, Golden Tate, we'll have to see where he goes. Adam Humphries, if he's going after all these players who, I don't really see a situation where they work it out and have a really strong fantasy season. Trey Quinn, I do. I legitimately do, and I don't think anyone's really given him a thought. So we'll keep him fantasy football advice secret. And then after that, we kind of rounded out with a couple kickers. Only 2 kickers were drafted. But that's going to do it, guys. That's the mock draft. Join us next time. We had a lot of fun. And, we'll give away more stuff. We got the Instagram giveaway if you want to copy a Madden, any system. We're giving it away. I'm going to give away, if you're a Chicago Bears fan, sorry, I was trashing the defense. I wasn't really trashing it. Just giving my thoughts on what could potentially go wrong. They're obviously, I took them the first by a mile. They're the best defense on paper. But I'm going to be giving away a William the Fridge Perry, signed ball. And I really love that story of William the Fridge Perry. So I hope somebody else can really enjoy it. But we'll talk more about that on another platform. So come meet us there. Join us on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter. Shout out to Matt Gifford and the writing staff. The writing staff has been phenomenal. If you guys aren't seeing the articles that are being posted there, they're great. They're being tossed around on Reddit. And the Reddit community is really sharp. They don't believe hype. They don't believe the BS. And they don't get into the drama. So, if the Reddit community really picks up on something, it typically has good content. And I think you guys would be interested to hear some of the young writers that we have and what their thoughts are on players. And if you miss some of the preseason games, hey, use this as a resource. We also partnered with a company called Pull Sports. And it's really important to mention because I think that they do have some upside for you guys to get involved in later on because, you guys always, as fantasy players, it's really difficult to gauge skill because it's such a game of variance. You can start the best players and have a way better roster and still lose. And, the person who wins is never going to admit, that their roster was typically the wrong one to start, let's say. But this Pull Sports, that is going to be where you're going to be asked questions. Who's a better start this week, Larry Fitzgerald or Curtis Samuel? And you're going to answer them. And you're going to be graded on consistency, accuracy, and this is going to be unbiased. It's based on the facts. And you're just going to be moving up or down the rankings. And I think you guys are super sharp yourselves. If you consistently answer those correctly, you can really make a name for yourself immediately, So I really encourage you guys to check that out on our website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. All of these ADPs are going to change. We're already seeing it all the time, even since the rankings videos we put out. So make sure that you are keeping up to date. Join our community so you can join these mock drafts. But that's going to do it, guys. We really hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like the video. If you're new, please subscribe. We thank you all for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.